Coming back to you, President Kagame, Rwanda is often held up as an example of a country that, of course, partly through this development support, has seen greater economic growth, stability. However, recently some social indicators in Rwanda have been dropping off. For example, some World Bank data shows that secondary school enrolment is dropped down to 36%, and 38% of children aged under 5 are said to be in chronic malnutrition, which is among one of the highest levels in the world. Considering the favourable economic data and development that we've seen in Rwanda, how is this development backslide on those social indicators coming about?
Well, to begin with, it's not backsliding. It's not dropping of these numbers. It's actually that the situation has been bad from the beginning, and our situation has been such that almost everything is a priority or has been a priority. So I've had to do too many things at the same time. And in that case, we have made good progress in some sectors, and we have been slow on others. But the two areas that you have referred to are things we are now paying much attention to, and we want to make sure that we register significant progress on them in the next few years, in a short time. And already the mechanisms and the money and everybody is ready to go. We are actually working on it as we speak. So it's not that anything has gone down. No, it's that everything almost has been down. We're just trying to lift things up. And
there is, as we were saying, a question about the focus on which areas of development, where to put money. Yeah. We know that Rwanda had a debt write-off in 2006. It has taken on quite a lot of debt since then, about 50% of GDP. And there are some major public investments based on this borrowed money that have been questioned, such as investments in Rwanda Air, which has a $50 million annual deficit, or perhaps a £30 million sponsorship deal with Arsenal Football Club for Visit Rwanda. Just in light of this sort of acknowledgement of the development needs in Rwanda, is your government perhaps due a rethink on where it's spending this borrowed money on these projects that perhaps it's hard to see where the benefits are for the people of Rwanda?
No, I think there are people who don't invest their time in reading what is happening. In Rwanda, there is no such a problem. One, I have to inform you that our borrowing capacity is actually still huge. It's not at 50%, as you say, it's actually about 32%. So we still have that gap of about 18%.
But it's not about how much the country's borrowing, it's about where the borrowed money is being put.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm starting with that because you are the one who brought up the issue of the debt. But going to specific areas, if you look at, for example, how much ground we have covered in ensuring that the country is food secure. It is for the first time in the life of our country that we are now food secure and have registered growth in the area of agriculture. That means being able to feed our people and even for export. That's one. If you look at how much we spend in our national budget on health, by the way, the health outcomes are the best in terms of where we have been and where we are. The most significant change in the health sector that you can talk about in the whole world. It's not just about Africa. That's one.
So you feel you're spending your money in the right places?
Absolutely, we are spending our money in the right. So you see, people are confusing. I mean, if they should, for example, even with the money we put in Arsenal football and so on, I think people just, that's why I said people don't have time to think and relate things. We have actually registered benefits. If you look at how much money is coming in through tourism and relate it with the, what has been the attraction and by what means, actually this investment has superseded the money we put in by many factors, and the benefits are real. They are there. We can count numbers. We are now getting 1.3 actually now tourists every year in Rwanda, from down like 400,000. So it has more than, or more or less tripled. So I don't know what people are talking about, but the results on the ground say completely different things. Even in education, where we still have to make a lot of improvement, in fact, the access that we have in Rwanda to education by our people is the highest in sub-Saharan Africa.
But improving secondary school enrollment, for example, is that a goal for you?
Now we are, absolutely. Now we are working on the quality of that education, because education is not just about access, it's also about quality. That's what we are working on. And we are putting money where that is going to be significantly improved.
We're looking at, of course, there are many sort of those on-the-ground aspects we can look at in the economy, but a more kind of overarching aspect, one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, you mentioned there are 17 of them. One of them is promoting peace, which of course has returned to Rwanda, as we've seen, justice for all and strong institutions. Now on that second point, justice for all, it seems to demand that a country's human rights record be examined. Commissioner Mimica, the EU annual report on human rights for 2018, focusing on Rwanda, said that there are continued reports of serious violations of civil and political rights. How much is that a concern for you when it comes to providing development, funding and investment?
Let me say something to that, because I think this kind of discussion, which has gone on for a very long time around, sounds a bit cynical in a sense. In fact, it's like the tragic situation of 1994 isn't considered even a violation of human rights. It has now gone into the background. Those who are responsible for it, those who are associated with it, are now talking about something else. According to them, the situation in Rwanda is that of human rights violation, even more than that tragic situation. I think that's what we are talking about. So,
well, just for example, there was Amnesty International wrote a report in the lead up to the 2017 election that talks about opposition politicians, journalists, human rights defenders being jailed, physically attacked, even killed.
I think you're interested in
forced into exile or silence. I'm just interested in your idea of that assessment of your country.
Raising your views to the audience so that you influence them by what
the European Union sees itself very much as an exporter of human rights and a defender of human rights.
So why can't you let me answer this?
I'm very interested in
Otherwise,
your answer.
you are going to ask and then answer yourself.
I'm very interested in your answer. I'm giving you some context on why I'm asking.
You're asking and giving answer at the same time. So
please tell me, what do you make of this assessment?
I think it's just ridiculous, because there is nothing like human rights minus these things we are talking about. What we are talking about in terms of development. These are human rights. Development, schools, education, health, and food security. And, when you see now the level of poverty has decreased almost by 60%. So these people, these human beings with improved lives, and participating in that themselves to improve their own lives, gets lost in the whole list you've been spelling out as if, what is in Rwanda is really hell. In fact, forgetting the hell that we have gone through, that we stood against and sorted out when you were there just talking about more or less nonsense. Because
do you reject the accusations, for example, from Amnesty International?
Absolute rubbish.
You reject
Rwanda is completely different from what it was 25 years ago. In fact, maybe you need to be looking around in Europe. You are violating people's rights. When we have this problem of people being bundled and sent back to sink in the Mediterranean and so on, and so many people being mistreated in your own countries, why don't you talk about your human rights and stop just offloading everything?
Well, this is a development conversation, so in the context of development.
You are not the one to determine what conversation or what points to raise in any conversation. You are asking questions, this is what I'm saying. You are asking questions and you are giving yourself answers.
Well, Commissioner Mimica, just in the context of development, how much is the European Union tracking on human rights? As I said, it's not explicitly one of the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
And you really need to stop this superiority complex nonsense about human rights. You think you are the only ones who respect human rights, or others it's about violating human rights. No, we've fought for human rights and freedoms of our people much better and more than anyone, including you people who keep talking about this nonsense. Where we have taken our country from and where it is now speaks for itself. The rest of the stories just comes from this complex. You know, these two worlds where there are people who know everything about human rights and all kinds of things, and another world where people are just people who don't know. But these are our human rights. It's not, when we respect the things we respect in our countries, it's not for you, it's not for anybody else, it's for ourselves.
Is it not
so
universal?
You don't sit there, yes, it is universal, but you don't sit there. If it is universal and you believe it, then you don't become the judge yourself. You don't start telling the others what to do, what they should not to do, or that what they are doing is not to your satisfaction. Who are you?
Well, I'm not sure if we're talking about me personally.
Well, you are the one actually raising these questions. So I think you better interpret it properly so that it is well understood.
Okay.
I could see you are asking questions in a manner that you want to influence the ones listening to us, but that's not correct.
Okay. Yeah. I'm raising it once again in the context of the United Nations Development Goals.
No, United Nations is us. You see, United Nations is not something alien somewhere else. Yeah. It's actually us. We participate.
And the framework for this entire development
And by the way, I had been leading the Millennium Development Goals before Sustainable Development Goals. I was the co-chair of that, with other leaders and some of the leaders in Europe. So you don't turn around, it's like you want...
So you believe that there should be scrutiny on human rights in Europe, in Africa,
No, I believe that you shouldn't be there belittling Africans or leaders of Africa who are trying to...
Oh no, but the conversation about migration is a real conversation about human rights. So you believe that there are valid human rights concerns to be taken into account in this conversation?
Even in Europe, not in Africa.
Not in Africa?
In Europe. In Europe, not only in Africa.
Not, of course.
Yes.
Well, thank you both very much. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for. President Paul Kagame of Rwanda and the EU's Development Commissioner, Neven Mimica, thank you both for your time. Thank you as well for watching this edition of Talking Europe. Hope to see you soon for more European news on France 24.